shifting of the ownership from public to the private, so that the private management can have a better control as compared to public sectors. So these three sets of measures which was namely taken for the privatization was ownership, organization, operational are broad measures of privatization. Now coming on to ownership, when we talk about ownership, the ownership of the public enterprises fully or partially is transferred to the partnership sector. Now if you see, now also many of the public sectors, as they were not able to properly manage or control, their ownership was being transferred to the private sectors, and ownership measures include denationalization, joint ventures, liquidations of workers, cooperatives. Whereas total denationalization means 100% of the ownership transfer of public enterprise to the private sectors. As a joint venture implies is partial, either 51%, 25% or a 74%. But when we talk about privatization, basically privatization imposes 100% of the transfer of the ownerships, where they were themselves also registering for the private ownership, as well as public sectors. Many public sectors which were not able to perform were given to the private sectors. Or whereas organizational measures are imposed to limit state control. These measures include the formation of a holding company structure in which the government provides a sufficient degree of autonomy in a decision making of the company. Big companies are split into smaller units, but without the loss of economies of scale, whereas small units became independent to certain product lines or regional operations. Leasing in another measures, whereby the government agrees to transfer the use of the assets to the public, from the public to the private. So these were the things which the government was not able to before properly handle it, was given in order for the privatization. So where private sectors had a better control on these things, whether it's a usage of the various assets and all of the government for giving them the assets on the lease and all, which was given. The leasing companies were the private companies, where they were having a contract with the government. So that kind of a thing was happening, where they were able to handle it properly. Whereas when we talk about after the ownership, second was organization, then comes on the operational measures. So operational measures also that aimed to perform, that is, improve the overall functioning of the economy, even if fully denationalization has not been undertaken, right? So better, and if you see now also private sectors are much better performing in terms of performance as compared to government sector. Why? Because their policy changing, process changing, or the methodology changing, or any other regulations to be changing or framework changing, it takes a large number of approvals and all, which is as compared to private sector is less. So operational measures also include granting of autonomy to the public sectors, provisions of initiatives to the employees, freedom to buy inputs from the market, development of the proper investment criteria. Before this was not there. And why? Because if you are a government sector organization or a public enterprises, you have to get the things or get the materials or whatsoever human resources as either, if you talk about human resources, either by getting a contract or by getting into a various competitive exams. When you talk about the materials and all, definitely you have to get from the people who are in contact with the public sector employees. You have a network or a contact with, right? You should have a contract, otherwise you cannot. But when we talk about it's a privatization, definitely you can get into the market and get the things done as soon as possible, whatever you want, as per the quality or the quantity. Third one is after liberalization, privatization, and third one is globalization. Now globalization is as simple as all the integration of domestic economy to the rest of the world. That means just there should not be much trade barriers to permit the free trade, free flow of capitals, technologies, and labor. Why this was needed? This was basically needed because definitely these important measures were undertaken to pursue the objectives of globalization as a reduction of the import duties. What was happening was much more import duties were there, due to which the cost of the products were getting much more doubled and all. So which was not feasible for the normal public to use. So in order to reduce the import duties, this globalization was done. Encouragement of more foreign investments were there, because definitely, as we see in the Industrial Policy 1991, there was automatic approval, which was which would be given and for FDIs up to 51% in higher priorities industries. So after further in 1996, a new list of industries were approved, whereby 74, like as simple 74% foreign equity would be cleared automatically as per 2021. 100% FDI through automatic route is permitted in major sectors of mining, broadcasting, airports, industrial parks, telecom services, pharmaceuticals, or single brand retail trading, textile garments, all these. So this was given as into various sectors, this kind of a privilege, this kind of advantage, and so that foreign direct investments can be there, so that they are able to survive and they are able to expand their business to the world. Coming on to after the new economic policy 1991, we have a 2014. So 2014 was basically new economic policy which included foreign direct policy of 2015 to 2020. So one of the most important policy which affects the external sectors in the foreign trade policy is in India, and each foreign trade policy which brings a new changes in the economic policy of the country. So when we say foreign trade policy, it's basically formulated for 5 years and currently. So when we talk about the in year 2015 to 2020, definitely there were some major highlights about this policy which comes under the new economic policy 2014. So what was that? India's export from the Indian under scheme, right? So export from India scheme, it was basically the country was divided into 3 categories, right? So when we talk about the 3 categories where India was divided into as category 1A, which is traditional market, which includes USA, Canada, Europe and others. Country B, which has emerging and focus markets including Africa, Latin America, Mexico, Turkey, and Western Asian countries, Japan, China, others. Country C, which contains definitely the list of 70 countries like Bangladesh, Bhutan, and Nepal. So why these? It was divided into 3 different categories, so that merchandise export from India scheme, which is basically when we say about it is called as ME's scheme, which is merchandise export from India scheme, right? Under this scheme, the scripts which will be issued will have no conditionally attached to them. The notified goods which are exported to notified markets would be rewarded and realized free on board value of export. Under this scheme, the countries of export definitely will be grouped into different category. So this scheme of merchandise export from India scheme, which is called as a ME's scheme, the India has categorized their markets. If it is category A, these particular, which is a huge hub of customers they can get, which is under category A. Then you have coming on to category B and category C. Depending on that, the market was divided where the exports from India to the merchandise thing will be going. Sorry, 1 second. Then next coming on to C's, which is a service export. That was merchandise export, which were 3 different categories where it was divided, the country for the export. Now coming on to export of the services from the India scheme, that is C's scheme. So after merchandise, it's come on to service exports. So service exports were definitely from India scheme. It was replaced by the old served from India, which was SFIS, which was served from India scheme. That is also a service which was exported from India. So this scheme aims to promote export of services from India to make the services more competitive in the global market and to provide incentives to export. So definitely under this scheme, incentives ranging from 3% to 5% were provided to the exporters of service who are actually providing the services from India to the various organizations situated outside India. The rate of the incentives under C's is computed on the net foreign exchange earned. So depending on if the foreign exchange changes and all, keeps on rate changes and all, definitely the incentives rate of incentives definitely will be changing. So business service is like 7 communication services, construction services, engineering services, educational services, environmental, healthcare, recreational, and definitely are covered 5% of that particular net compounded foreign exchange, whereas services like hotels, restaurants, and other services attracted 3% of the computed net foreign exchange. So this kind of thing was being undertaken under the new economic policy 2014, which was foreign trade policy, in order to more and more export these services from India to the different other countries in the world. So now the rewards earned in these schemes, basically, when we talk about merchandise export and when we talk about service export, both the schemes what you're talking about, so the rewards earned in the form of duty credit scripts are freely transferable and can be used for all types of goods and services, tax debit on procurement of services or goods. So these were the benefits. The benefits were basically all the duty scripts issued under MEs and Cs schemes, and the goods imported against these scripts were fully transferable. Then a new concept of status holder was being introduced in foreign trade policy, which was under this only. In 2015 to 2020, business leaders who were prominent in the arena of foreign trade and have successfully contributed to the country's foreign trade, they would be definitely the status holders, right? So because they were the one who were exporting these kind of services or the merchandise, whereas boost to make in India. So basically what the things is there, the scheme which was there under, in order to keep on increasing the entrepreneurship and all in India, boost this particular scheme by government of India was they provided boosting it in view of encouraging more domestic manufacturing, because so many things were there in terms of merchandise or things which we were importing also. So instead of importing and just paying a high excise the custom duty and all, definitely why can't we start preparing that in India? That was under the Make in India. So they provided, government started providing various incentives, various schemes, various kind of financial benefits to make the same things which were being imported before in India only. As well as under the export promotion capital goods, which is EPCG scheme, the specific export obligations have been reduced to 75% in case of capital goods and procured for indigenous manufacturers. Next, the benefit what we earned from the manufacturing or the merchandise export or the service export was ease of doing the business. For trade facilitators, ease of doing business provisions, and for online filing of the documents, or which was not there before, which was things was doing manually. So leaving that, all the things started online happening, where the processes were quite earlier being finished and all. So definitely filing of the documents or applications have been made, whereby various applications by exporters or importers can be filled online. So these kind of benefits were being earned by the merchandise export or service export. Also, these were the things which were taken under consideration. Coming on to GST, it was a goods and services tax, one of the major initiative reforms of the Indian tax sector was the introduction of GST. So GST tax was passed in July 2017 by the Parliament and came into effect on 1st July 2017. So it is basically a comprehensive multi-stage destination based on the tax that is levied on every value addition. Prior to the introduction of the goods and services tax, there was a plethora that tax will be levied by the central and the state. But governments which led to the cascading effects of the taxes, GST was submerged by a large number of taxes and intended to simplify the structure of this indirect tax. So basically it was levied in 2017 in order to just simplify that structure which was being paid by as an indirect tax. So the benefits of GST was accruing from GST was creation of unified common national market. And if you see, these are the basic things which are as an importance, what benefits was earned in India, as well as giving boost to the foreign and investment and Make in India programs. GST definitely helped it, as well as mitigation and cascading of the taxes, harmonization of the tax laws and the procedures, simpler tax regime, increase in the ease of doing business, reduction in compliance cost. All these are the benefits which was being basically for the due to the implication of GST was there. So which was implied or applied from the 2017, July 2017. So if you just see this, these all are the for consumers. Again, there was a benefit that reduction of prices of goods and the transparency of fixation of prices. Once whatever GST depending of it is fixed was being given. So if the particular cost is more, the percentage of definitely GST will be coming as more, as it will not be a common or a core thing for everyone. So that's what it is. So these were the basic benefits which were being used, or benefits which was being undertaken by implication of the GST. One second. Which is again discussed, we'll be discussing in the 9th chapter in detail. Coming on to next, we have then coming on to after GST, we have one more scheme of Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. Now definitely this is, if you see, normally also we are using it. This is to widen the scope of financial inclusion in the country, which is a ultimate goal for the inclusive growth of the country. So to bring the backward and the marginalized citizens of the country under the umbrella of institutional sources of finance, hence is a goal for this particular scheme, which is Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, in order so that these backwards and marginalized citizens can be able to get this kind of schemes, benefits of these kind of institutional sources of finances. Because the government of India launched this particular basically initiative on 15th of August 2014. So definitely it comes under the new economic policy of 2014 or in 2015 to 2020. So this basically mission was launched with an objective of making these is financial product and services approachable to common citizen, and at least at a cost possible, or with the extensive use of the technology. When this Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana was definitely accounts can be used for direct benefit transfer for social security schemes, namely Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana, Atal Pension Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana, and Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana. So post 2018, the focus of Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana has shifted from every household to every unbanked adult, right? So this was the thing which was undertaken, which is a big drastic change, in which none of the developing nations have still accustomed for. So the overdraft facilities increased from 10,000 from 5,000 to 10,000, and the age limit of the overdraft facility has been increased to 65 years. So as per April 2021, the total number of Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan account, which is stood for 42.25 crores, and in this account rupees 1,45,408 crores was deposited, and 30.93 crores rupee cards were issued. So basically Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Darshak app was also launched in order to provide the necessary informations as to keep the customers updated with the banking services, like locating the ATMs, bank branches, and other things. So this is basically some people, before we didn't, who were the what we say marginalized people, what we gave a statement as backward and marginalized people. They didn't have the accounts and all. So in order to just make them aware of their finances and all, open the account, and so that they'll be aware of the things where then comes as Mudra scheme. Now when we talk about the Mudra scheme, again Mudra scheme is to revitalize and meet the credit needs of the non-corporate or non-farm micro and smaller enterprises. Now Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana, it was also launched in 2015. This micro enterprise, it basically plays an important role in the labor surplus countries like India. This enterprise, these enterprises are labor intensive and needs less credit. So caters to the local economy, needs to play a supplementary role in the medium. Now these kind of a Mudra scheme, they provide, with the help of the Mudra schemes, they provide different kinds of help to these small and the local suppliers. One second. Right. So they basically, because when there are local suppliers or there are local people who wants to have their own startups or their business and all definitely so as to expand the ambit of the institutional sources of finance to this sector. Pradhan Mantri Mudra scheme was launched in order this, because when local suppliers are there under these, they are not able to survive into the market because of the lack of finances and all. So with the help of these kind of schemes and all, they are at least able to survive, and they are in indirect again helping these micro industries or the small industries is where, because they could get a loan up to 10 lakhs depending on their businesses. Then comes your Swachh Bharat mission, which was also basically launched in 2014 only. So it also comes under the new economic policy of 2014. So on 2nd October 2014, Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi launched multiple prolonged programs to augment the sanitization drive in the country, namely Swachh Bharat mission or Clean India. This program was basically launched for the backward backdrop that in 2014, in more than half of the population, that is 55% of the people, practiced open defecation, which was definitely the situation led to the various kind of problems, various other kinds of diseases and all. So under the Swachh Bharat mission, beneficiaries were provided with a incentive of 12,000 for the construction of individual household toilets, as well as the financial burdens were shared 60-40. So ratio between the central government and the state government, it was shared, so that is individual, every house should have an individual toilets in order to reduce any kind of diseases which was being born faced by the people who didn't have these kind of facilities and all. So in case of special categories like Jammu and Kashmir, Himalaya, HP, northeastern states, Himachal Pradesh, these participatory loan in this participatory role increased to 90 and 90 to 10%, and whereas other places central government and state government were helping them with the financial help of 60 to 40%, whereas in other specific regions of Jammu Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh and northeastern region, it was central government was providing 90%, whereas state government 10%. Further permission was also granted to create the avenues of for additional from other sources. Now, when we say Swachh Bharat mission, definitely it's helping the behavioral among the communities and the individuals. There are changes in the behavior, as well as since in the inception, the percentage of the fund utilization under this scheme was more than 95%. Nearly 10 crores of the toilets were built in 2015, and 711 districts declared as free from open defecation. So this was one of the biggest schemes which was undertaken in 2014. Then one of the again major schemes under new economic policy is again 2014, which was Make in India, which was again in order to increase the entrepreneurship, in order to generate more employability among the Indian citizens instead of importing the things from outside. Right? So with the idea and desire of transforming the India into a global design and manufacturing hub and to boost domestic manufacturing, Prime Minister in September 2014 launched a much hyped initiative of Make in India, which were encouraged investments not only to domestic but foreign also, and built a network of modern efficient infrastructure. These programs have three different objectives. First, in order to boost the manufacturing sector, which increases the rate of from 12 to 14% per annum. Secondly, the manufacturing sector is one of the largest employment providers, right? Where 100 million people can get employment if more and more manufacturing sectors are established in India. Thirdly, in order to increase the share of manufacturing up to 25% by 2025. So this scheme focused on the 25 sectors, namely Make in India focused on the sectors like automobile, aviation, chemical, construction, defense, manufacturing. Then you have electronic systems, food processing, leathering, mining, pharma, railways, tourism, renewable energies, and many more. And basically, the idea for the Make in India was to keep on increasing the various manufacturing sectors in the economy in order to not stop importing the products and start exporting to the global economy, as well as employability. As manufacturing sectors, more than 100 million employability can be provided, as well as the share of manufacturing sectors can definitely to the Indian economy raise up to 25% by Make in India. Coming on to other initiatives, when we talk about the major initiatives taken under the Make in India was Ministry of Defense reserved 26 items that will be only procured from the local suppliers. So definitely the Ministry of Finance reserved for 26 items, which was only procured from the local suppliers, so that local suppliers also are not able to lose their market, right? So because and there that will be fixed. These are the things which will be only made by the local suppliers. As then definitely NLC India announced a setup of 500 megawatt of the solar energy plant in Odisha with a cost of 3,000 crores. Then foreign direct investment in defense sectors increased to 74% from the automatic route. 100% of the foreign direct investment under the automatic route for construction and specified rail infrastructure. So with this particular Make in India initiative, these were the benefits. Coming on to the next major initiatives, one of the initiatives which was again launched in 2016, which was Stand Up India. This was basically for the backward people who were the people who were like not able to earn their livelihood. For them, a kind of financial support as Stand Up India was provided in order to promote the entrepreneurial skills among the women and to bring the marginalized section of the society, that is scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, individuals, to the net financial inclusion scheme called Stand Up India for financing small scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, or the women entrepreneurs were launched in 2016. Under this scheme, a composite loan of rupees 10 lakhs and rupees 100 lakhs, that is 1 crores, will be provided for setting up the greenfield enterprise to be a advance at least one scheduled caste or scheduled tribe borrowers and at least one woman borrowers per bank branch. So this enterprise may be can be involved in the manufacturing or the services or training sectors or activities allied to the agricultural, pisciculture, beekeeping, poultry, where their livelihood also can be there. People will be able to generate the employment also, and definitely these backward people, small scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, or the women and all who have the sense of earning or want to have their own livelihood earning and all, will be able to get a source of income for their own families and other families by providing employment as well. So the loan needs to be paid back in 7 years until 18 months to of the maximum moratorium period. Nearly 26,000 crore has been already sanctioned under the Stand Up India to these backward people or marginalized people or the women for this scheme to start their own business by 2021. The next scheme, one of the major schemes again 2016 was PM Ujjwala Yojana, which definitely provided you with a clean and efficient liquefied petroleum gas as to rural India. Now here Pradhan Mantri Modi ji launched PM Ujjwala Yojana in 2016. This scheme aimed at providing 5 crores. Now when it aimed at providing 5 crores, definitely LPG connections to the women below poverty line across India. The scheme provides financial support of the 1600 for each LPG connection, which includes cylinders, stove, pressure regulator, and financial burden is borne by the government. So under this scheme, many of the many of the households they were provided with a connection of LPG, liquefied petroleum gas, with a minimum charges. So Skill India and Pradhan Mantri Skill India or Skill India Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana. Now this was under the, basically this also came into 2016 to 2020, so launched in 2015. So it also comes under new economic policy. So here under the flagship of the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, basically this was launched in 2015, and the main goal of this, there were three agencies who were basically, this was this. The different area activities, three agencies. Is the screen visible? Is the screen visible? PPT is visible? No?
No, ma'am. No. The screen is not visible. No, ma'am.
1 minute. Yeah. Is it visible now? I'm not allowed to share this thing. I have already asked. So PPT is not allowed to be shared, but because you have got the, I think the materials for studying. So what materials you have got, we have cut short and made you a PPT or explanation for that. So, but I have already asked to them. They have told no, you're not supposed to share the materials. That's because you have already got the hard copy of the materials of the books. So now this was basically made for the youth, so as to, so that they can be able to increase there. So basically there some of the agencies were involved in order to develop their skills, whether in terms of getting some kind of a computer knowledge or in terms of another skill, in order to increase their employability. So that's what is the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana. Coming on to next, we have policy of 2020, which is a new economic policy of 2020. Now the here again, Atmanirbhar Bharat, COVID pandemic had a devastating effect on all the economies of the country, for which this in 2020 Atmanirbhar Bharat, in May 2020, this particular new policy came, or a scheme came, which was definitely this basically a scheme. Under this scheme there were a number of different schemes, so it made the policy makers to rethink the different economic 13 systems to work on, where it was this juncture of Prime Minister of India, who announced that economic package relating to the pandemic situations and all in different areas in order to help them. So basically, even some of them mentions with some of the various other things, and this was a 25-year plan. And in 2020, Atmanirbhar Bharat was declared as Oxford Hindi is first word of the year. As well as why this was, because under this scheme there were number of other schemes were there in order to help the people who were not getting the actual benefit of the things. Like the main constituents of this particular Atmanirbhar Bharat was demand, demography, economy, infrastructure, and the system. So the government of India, via this package, has tried to extend a helping hand to almost every sector of the economy: micro and small, medium enterprises, farmers, rural laborers, migrants, all those people, from the people who are actually deprived of the things, were being helped on, so that all will be able to be independent in their things, whether it's we are talking about the backward, or we are talking about the people who are jobless and all. So when we talk about the small, medium, micro, small and medium enterprises, yes, here the division has been there. Like one of prominent reforms in this sector was redefined by MSMEs is under the MSMEs Development Act 2006. Earlier, there was a different definition, but later the definition got changed. The definition of micro, small, and medium enterprise, it is on the basis of the investment. If you see in the into plant and machineries, right? So when we talk about specifically into plant and machineries, is plant and machineries not more than 1 crore, they to a micro level industries, whereas not more than 10 crores, you come under the purview of small scale industries. Not more than 50 crores, you come under the purview of 50 crores. Whereas along with the investment, before it was only investment, right? Before it was only investment into plant and machineries, but now the investment changed included along with the annual turnover. So if you are a micro or not more than micro industries and you are invested in not more than 1 crores, but you have had an annual turnover of more than 5 crores. So definitely you will be coming under micro industries. Along with the small scale industries, you should also have a not more than and turnover of 50 crores. As well as when we talk about medium industries, you should have not more than turnover of 250 crores. So this particular is a categorization what you come under, which kind of industry you come under. You invest into and you have an annual turnover. You invest into and you have an annual turnover. So this kind of classification gives you that under which kind of industry you fall into, either micro or small or the medium. Then comes under the collateral free loan up to 3 lakhs crores to MSMEs, which is micro, small, medium enterprises, which aims to provide a benefit nearly about 25 lakhs unit, right? So 25 lakh unit have taken that particular benefit of providing a collateral free, that is security free 3 lakh crore rupees loan, right? So this is all together, not individually. So rupees 10,000 crore fund created to help these enterprises, whereas to expand the government procurement from the MSMEs, it has decided not to float a global tender of up to 200 crores in various procurement undertaken by the government. A subordinate depth of 20,000 crore for equity support of a stressed MSMEs. So these are the basic financial, and because basically MSMEs are the one, they are converted into SIC units and basically they close. So if continuously for 5 to 10 years you're not continuously able to sustain because of the financial issues, so because of the financial supports, or because of the other operational benefits like people or the employees or the human resources are not trained, right? So you are not getting that kind of benefit, you will be converted into sick, and if you prolong with your sickness of the industries, you will be basically shut down. So these kind of benefits are being provided under this. Then comes to agricultural and the allied sectors. So basically in agricultural and allied sectors, the following are some of the measures undertaken to strengthen the agriculture and allied sectors. To develop the infrastructure in the agriculture sector, a corpus amounting to 1 lakh to set up a aggregation point and a farm gate. The farm gate is basically a place where both farmers and the buyers can interact directly with one another. So this kind of thing was also taken, so that directly there is no kind of margin being taken by an intermediary. So these kind of supports were also being given in order to help the dairy industries and animal husbandry infrastructure development fund. Rupees 15,000 crores was set up, and in order to control the foot and the mouth diseases, is definitely national animal disease control programs were launched with rupees 13,343 crores for achieving the universal vaccination for the cattle, buffaloes, goats, pigs and sheep. So these were being done under the agricultural and the allied sectors, whereas for the crop loan requirements, an additional fund of rupees 30,000 is allocated, and it will be disbursed via National Bank of Agriculture, that is NABARD, to the rural cooperative banks and to the regional rural banks, RRB banks, and the cooperative banks. It will be provided through the NABARD in order to get the loan requirement for the crops during either the cutting of the crops or whenever as the benefits are to be required. Then rupees 500 crores has been also extended for the beekeeping initiative under the agricultural allied sectors, because it's also in order to kind of a entrepreneurship initiative being given, so that to earn the livelihood this kind of businesses can also be undertaken. Then coming on to, the government has decided to amend the Essential Commodities Act in 1855 in order to deregulate the food items like edible oil, onion, pulses, potatoes, oil sheets, and to attract investment in these sectors. So these were the initiatives being taken. Coming on to the next we had on the emphasis on the migrant workers. So when we talk about the migrant workers, definitely one nation, one card scheme has been launched, whereby migrants can access their public distribution system. So you get only one in one particular country in India, one card, one for in order to get the rations and all. You can get that particular, showing that card, you can get it from the public distribution system anywhere. 5 kgs of the gram per person and 1 kg of the chana per family per month for 2 months, which will be given to all the migrant workers who are not beneficiaries under the National Food Security Act ration cards or state cards. So it is estimated it will benefit 8 crore migrants. So as well as along with the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana envisages providing living facilities at an affordable prices to migrant laborers or urban poorers, whereas rupees 5,000 crores credit facilities to street vendors, which are the most affected segments of the population due to the ongoing pandemic. Under this facility, the bank credit facilities is for initial working capital up to rupees 10,000 for each enterprise will be extended. So for migrant workers, we have these kind of facilities as one card, basically one card and one a nation and one card was a scheme which was benefited with them. So that because the basic requirement of these kind of workers, if you see, is a food, clothing, shelter. So definitely food is the first thing which is required. So because of this, with this kind of schemes, definitely food is being provided by this scheme to all kind of people, so that they are able to get it by showing this card as a free distribution system. Coming on to the next, under the 2020 Civil Aviation and Defense, we have airports and with world-class infrastructure to be built up through the public-private partnership. If you see, many of the national airports which have been new infrastructure built up has been built up with a contract of 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, which with a network of public-private partnership. Airport Authority of India has initially awarded at 3 airports of Ahmedabad, Lucknow and Mangalore for the operation and maintenance of PPP bases. So foreign direct investment limits in defense and manufacturing increased to 74% from 49 in under the automatic route. For the defense, we have this kind of increase into the percentage of investment, whereas reservations, when we talk about the reservations, once again, when we talk about the reservations of it, when we talk about the reservations of Indian vendors in the some categories, production agencies is design and development, etc. for FDI is more than 40% is not allowed. So the ministry, when we say reservation for the Indian vendors in some categories like production agencies in design and development, etc. So foreign direct investments of more than 40% is not allowed. Only till 40% it can be. Otherwise, again, the problem of acquiring or things will be happening. So then Ministry of Defense will be again bring out with a list of items where like there will be a ban on the imports of certain items has to be announced, which will be under the purview of the government only. Permission of Raksha Gyan Shakti was also launched in order to promote innovations and technology development, where fundings were being given so as to install new machineries or the softwares. Then coming on to energy, to improve the functioning and the efficiency of the power sector, the power sector Department, Utilities of Union Territories 16, as well as to ensure the progressive reduction in the cross subsidies in the sector, it was decided to amend the Electricity Act 2003 as rupees 118 in 1,18,273 crores worth loan has been sanctioned to 17 states or union territories for the liquidity injection of discoms. So for energy also there was various policies and functionings were made in order to work in a smooth way. So definitely these they tried to privatize the sectors and of various government and the union territories, as well as to make some amendments into the policies or the Electricity Act 2003. Why? Because if until unless these amendments will happen, the only the older things will keep on carrying on, and definitely in order to cover up the loans and all, these amendments were required. For the social sectors, this our new economic policy 2020, the Manrega has been launched, given an additional allocation of 40,000 crores to provide impetus to the rural demand and the employment. So definitely Manrega was given with an additional of 40,000 crores. Why? So that the rural people who are not able to get much employment or their livelihood can get their jobs where they are staying only, in order to move from one place to another. So and to further strengthen and enhance the technology in the education sector, Prime Minister e-Vidya has been launched for the digital and online educations everywhere. Online portals will be there. People who are staying at the villages or the youth want to get some kind of knowledge of the information, online portals, free online portals should be there, provided with minimal charges, where they can complete their educations online as well, who are not able to move or who are not able to get the financial benefits. Then some other initiatives are as such other measures under 2020 are festival advance schemes to the government employees under SBI Utsav card is there. New leave travel concession LTC is being a vouchers scheme launched. A new scheme under Atma Bharat Rojgar Yojana launched to create a new job avenues during COVID recovery phase, as well as rupees 1.46 lakh 2 crores to boost the 10 champion states in terms of advanced electronic technologies sectors and pharmaceutical drugs and all. These has been there, so that in order to keep on updating, because definitely during COVID situation many of these things were lagging behind with the financial supports and all, so which was being given, due to which, if you find it out, we were able to have our own vaccine for the country, and we were able to export also, right? Our entire country was being given vaccinated, and was the vaccines were exported to different other countries because of this kind of financial support. So then rupees 18,000 crore additionally outlay for the Prime Minister Awas Yojana Urban, as well as rupees 900 crores were provided for the COVID Suraksha mission for the research and development for of Indian COVID vaccines as well. Coming on to next advent, which is National Food Security Mission. So this mission was basically launched in 2007 and as a centrally sponsored scheme which aimed to increase the annual production of rice, wheat, pulses by 10 million tons, and 8 million tons and 2 million tons were respectively by the end of 2011 and 12. This increase in the production was intended to achieve the restoring soil fertility, improving the farm level economy, expanding the areas under the cultivation, and fostering new employment avenues. So this was under the National Food Security Mission. This was being taken in order to keep on increasing the production of rice, wheat and pulses, is due to which definitely the basic aim was to keep on improving the production. Along with that, intention to achieve the restoring soil fertility, improving farm level economies, is as well as expanding the area of cultivation and providing employment as well, because when it will be stored and all, definitely people or the human resources will be required to take care of it. Then coming on to national food security. One second. Coming on to next, once again. Smart Cities Mission. There was a City Mission. Smart City Mission was launched in 2015 for rejuvenating the urban development. It aims to enhance the economic growth along with this improving of the quality of the life. Definitely, where physical, economic, social, and the institutional supports of the infrastructural and the, in order to make a sustainable development for everyone. So definitely affordable housing, then electricity supplies, the proper sanitization facilities, adequate proper water supply, then sustainable environment should be provided, safety for the women, children and all was being provided in order to make 100 cities were undertaken in order to make a smart city under the smart city schemes. Then Bharat Net and National Optical Fiber Network. This was under also mission where connecting of the rural India to the internet services. So nowadays, if you see every in the rural area also networks are so good that people can definitely do the education online also through the online courses, through the various thing, and as well as bank transfers can be done. And before networks were not there, so people have to run here and there for their getting the things done, whether education, whether various financial terms or the banking services and all. But due to which definitely all the rural areas they provided a network where the National Optical Fiber Network was launched in 2011 and was renamed as Bharat Net in 2015. The mission envisaged connecting all the 250,000 gram panchayats with a minimum of 100 Mbps bandwidth covering nearly 6,25,000 villages. So Bharat Broadband Network Limited is a special purpose which was definitely vehicles created, so public sector undertakings, and which was execution of NOF. And the project aims to e-services, e-application, electronic health, electronic education, and this was basically which was a need of the hour for the rural areas, which they were not getting. They were not getting doctors through online mode. They were not getting the education facilities. They were not getting any other facilities which was electronically can be provided. So through the various connectivity schemes, they are getting out. Coming on to the keywords of this particular chapter, we have a keywords of as cess. Cess is a, when you understand the meaning of cess, then only you can explain the, which is levied by the government. It's a tax on the tax, which is levied by the government for the specific purpose, such as education, health, education, financial inclusion, which is an initiative by a government to bring the financial excluded sectors like marginalized sectors, women, tribals, CSTs and all. Then financial deficits, which is the difference between a total income of the government and the total receipt. Then foreign direct investment, that is investment from the foreign countries to the Indian end markets. Then PDs, which is public distribution system, where a distribution of the rations at a subsidized rates will be given. Then tax, definitely a tax is a compulsory payment made by each individual on the income being paid on them, depending on the band you come into. Then trade deficit is a situation wherein the countries import and the higher than the export. So these are terms, please remember when you are preparing the unit 8. Now I'll be just, I'm not closing the Zoom meeting. I just want you to stop and just take 5 to 10 minutes break. So now it's 11:03. By 11, again by 11:10 or 11:11, I'll just come back and start the unit 9. Is it clear? Okay. So because you also take a break of 5 to 10 minutes. By 11:10, I'll be coming back. Okay. I'm just not, please do not exit the meeting. Neither I am exiting it. I'll come and back and just again start the thing. Unit 9. So coming on to introduction of it, when we take about financial sectors and financial sectors reform. One second. These things will be included in this particular chapter. What is financial sector? Why? What are the banking sector reforms of 1991? Basically, reforms in the financial sector, then reforms in the insurance sector, then tax reforms in 1991. So coming on to the financial sector, when it itself we are met with the problems like non-financial assets, inefficiencies, lack of capital, and many more. In this unit, we'll be examining about the major banking sector reforms introduced as part of the National Economic Policy in 1991, and then move on to the recent reforms introduced in the financial sector, especially post 2010. So the physical policy is related to taxation, expenditure, and public debts. Tax is the mainly of two types of tax are there: direct and the indirect tax, and an efficient tax system is necessary for collecting the tax revenues in the country. In unit 8, we have already learnt about the economic reforms of 1991, and now during the process of liberalization, privatization, and globalization, the series of measures introduced in the physical reforms is direct and the indirect tax reforms. Coming on to the banking, when we talk about the banking sector reforms, introducing the financial sector reforms, it is in continuation of the new economic policy and has bring a structural reforms and working of the economy. A series of measures were introduced in the financial sectors, especially in the banking sector. In the following sections, we study about the reforms in 1991. So as Government of India set up a committee called as Narasimhan Committee to examine the aspects relating to the structure, functioning, organization, and procedure of the financial sectors to remodel these institutions for raising overall efficiencies. So what are these? What is the basic role of this particular committee? So Narasimhan Committee basically was set up as 1991 to analyze the falling efficiencies of India basically Indian banking systems. Efficiency was continuously reducing, right? So which was falling down. So there was, as per the Narasimhan Committee, 1991, major recommendations were given. So what was the recommendations? Was a committee which was the committee felt that the present structure was too rigid and inflexible. So it proposed the deregulation of the interest rate structure and said that the interest rate should be determined by the market rates. So because before it was a fixed rates were being there, due to which losses were being there, as was re-examination of the direct credit programs and to include small and marginal farmers as tiny industrial sectors and weaker sections. The aggregate credit to the redefined priority sectors were fixed up to 10%. So these are the first two recommendations given by the Narasimhan Committee. First, not to fix the rate. Second is to definitely the credit aggregate credit was redefined to the priority sectors up to 10% fix. So that was the thing. First two recommendations which were given by the Narasimhan Committee in 1991. So next recommendation was reduction of the statutory liquidity ratio to 25 over the period of 5 years from 38. 38.5 in 1991 was there, so which is the CRR, which is cash reserve ratio, has to be reduced in a phased manner. Existing rate was 15%. So that was being told that statutory liquidity ratio should reduce to 25%, which was 38.5%, as to existingly reduce the cash reserve ratio. The fourth recommendation which was given by the Narasimhan Committee was establishment of the 4-tier hierarchy for the banking structure, which should be as follows: as 3 to 4 banks including SBI, which is State Bank of India, at the top of the banking structure, and they could become the international in charter. As well as under the fourth recommendation, the B point was 8 to 10 banks engaged in general or universal banking, and they would have a network of branches throughout the country. C was local banks whose operation would be confined to a specific regions. Fourth was regional banks including regional rural banks, would be confined to the rural areas and would be engaged in financing agricultural and light activities. So this was a major fourth recommendation under the Narasimhan Committee 1991 was given. Coming on the fourth recommendation, which was introduction of prudential norms and regulations. What are the prudential norms and regulations? Definition of the non-performing assets as well as the is as simple as assets which are non-performing if the interest on such assets remains past due for a period of exceeding 180 days at the balance sheet date. So definitely banks and the financial institutions to be given a period of 3 years to move towards these norms. Then comes for the purpose of provisioning, the committee recommended that classifying the assets into 4 categories: standard assets, substandard assets, doubtful assets, and the loss assets. So this has to be categorized depending on the non-performing assets. Coming on to next is the bank and financial institutions should achieve a minimum of 4% of the capital adequacy ratios by March 1993, which was given by the Narasimhan Committee in 1991, of a tier 1 capital not less than 2%. Coming on to the sixth recommendation by Narasimhan Committee, an asset reconstruction fund has to be established in order to recover back the loans. Otherwise, many of the banks were not able to recover back the loans, which was becoming as a bad and doubtful debts for the banks, and they were not able to recover because of the inavailability of the proper securities or the collaterals. Then, end of the durability of the control, and the RBI should be a primary agency for the regulation of the banking. You know, there is a regulatory body which is definitely the major banking regulations to be changed, transformed, frameworks made, and the major regulatory body in case of the banks and all. Banking Regulation Act is there, and which is definitely under the RBI. So regulatory body should be the RBI, which will definitely be the primary for the regulation of the banking system. And to provide the autonomy of to the banks, and chief executives to the bank should be appointed based on the professionalism, integrity, and not on the political consideration. Before, this was also the thing. So Narasimhan Committee in 1991, they gave a recommendation on this. So the chief executives, the heads of the banks, the main officers or the who were into the regulations and make sure that regulations or the frameworks are being formalized and being implemented in the bank, which is given by the RBI, should be the executives who have those professionalisms, who have that integrity, and not the political influenced people. Then another ninth recommendations by the Narasimhan Committee was bank can assess the capital market and issue a fresh capital to the public through the capital market. The banking company is acquisition and transfer of the undertaking act was amended so that the banks can raise their capitals through the public issues as well. So where definitely the condition was there that the holding of the central bank would not fail up to 51% of the paid up capital. Where other if you see other private companies also, they do not issue of the capital or more than 49%. 51% is always kept with them so that it is secure. Same applies for the central government or when they are going for the public issue and all. 50%, 51% should be secured with them, and other 49 can be issued in order to raise the capital, right? So then 10th recommendation by the Narasimhan Committee, as simple, was about the setting up of the private sector's bank, and if they conform to the requirement of the minimum startup capital and their requirements. So as per the requirements, definitely new private banks should be set up conforming to the requirements being followed. Then 11th recommendation as per the Narasimhan Committee says opening of the foreign banks to open the offices in India either as a branches or as a subsidiaries. Is foreign banks can also come into as a definitely that will be a help for the financial for the financial stability of the country as well as the other banking systems in India. Then comes as Narasimhan Committee 2. This was Narasimhan Committee 1, 1991. Coming on to Narasimhan Committee 2, 1998. So where again certain recommendations. So this committee was given a mandate to review the progress of the banking sector, because once you have made the formulations, frameworks, or the guidelines for the banking system, definitely you have to keep a review onto it so that as per the changing circumstances and scenarios, new design for the to strengthen the banking system, the banking structure, the financial structure, the technological upgradations, the human resource development has to be reviewed. What are things required should be included. And those major recommendations in order to review as per the banking Narasimhan Committee 2 1998. What are the needs, whether technological upgradations, whether financial structures, whether infrastructures? What are the major recommendations being given in 1998 was as simple as it was a stronger banking system in context to the current account convertibility. Indian banks must be made capable of handling the problem pertaining to the domestic liquidity and exchange rate management. So strong bank need to be merged, which will definitely have a multiplier effect on the industry. Next is revival of narrow banking concept, and whereby weak banks should have definitely should place their funds for the only for the short term and the risk free assets like government securities and all. Then other recommendation says setting up of the small local banks so as to help the localite or the small industries or the medium industries or the local entrepreneurs. Then bank should also aim to reduce a gross NPA to 3% by 2002, which was a recommendation in 1998 in second recommendation in Narasimhan Committee 2. Then coming on to recommendation 6, which is banks to give more autonomy and freedom in the recruitment of a skilled specialized manpower from the market. Then seventh recommendation was rapid introduction of computerization and technology, which was mustly needed. Then eighth recommendation was amendments in the Banking Regulation Act, Nationalization Act and the State Bank Act, RBI Act, as well as National Bank Nationalization Act to allow the greater autonomy, higher private sector shareholdings and so on. So these were the very basic recommendations, which was recommendations of 1998 and which is a Narasimhan Committee recommendation 2. Then comes as reforms in the various financial sectors. Now reforms in the various financial sectors, definitely Financial Stability and Development Council, which was being made in order to have a financial stability in the country. So the government of India in 2010 and created a apex body, which is a non-statutory body. Why this body was made? It was made to promote the various financial sectors development and strengthen the mechanism of maintaining the financial stability, right? So this was basically the Union Finance Minister is the chairman of this Financial Stability and Development Council, and other members include as governor of RBI, the chairman of SEBI and IRDA. He will be there, who will be taking care of the reforms which are definitely increasing or improving the financial stability of the country. Then coming on to second reform, which was merger of Forward Market Commission. So definitely merger of Forward Market Commission with the SEBI was there. Why this was needed? Ki merger of Forward Market Commission along with the SEBI, which is Securities and Exchange Board of India. It was in order to make sure that the forward market commission is a regulatory body. It was a regulatory body for the commodity futures market, right? So definitely this was a merger so as to realize the benefits that economy has in the scope and the scale of the exchanges, as well as to harmonize the regulations of the commodity derivatives and the security market, because definitely SEBI was not able to handle that when we talk about because we have one commodity market, when you have a stock market. So for the commodity market, this was needed because so that when SEBI is definitely merging with that, SEBI will have a more control onto the commodity market and the derivatives and the security market as well. So definitely that it was for that, so that at this Forward Market Commission is able to, as a stock market, properly function. Then under the control of SEBI. Then comes insolvency and bankruptcy code also came under this particular reforms 2016, because before 2016 there were several laws and procedures which were actually not very much clear about the rules and regulations of insolvency or bankruptcy, and which is overlapping or adjudicating the forums dealt with, where the companies were facing a huge loss and all. So because of that, this particular code was made, where companies were able to, or at least when they are going to be insolvent or when going to be a bankrupt, it was to be investigated and things were being made clear. Okay, what has to be made first, the creditors has to be paid and the other things. The Banking Regulation Act, which is the, because you have a Banking Regulation Act, which is an Amendment Act, Ordinance Act 2017. It was because many of the banking regulations were not being truly properly followed. So due to which this Regulation Amendment Act was made. So one of the biggest problems in the Indian banking pertains to non-performing assets. So over the years, they have been accumulated and have reached to trillion of the crore rupees. To deal with the problem of the stress, this is Banking Regulation Amendment Ordinance Act 2070 was promulgated in 2017. The bill was amended by the bill was amended in the Banking Regulation Act in 1949 and has inserted two new sections, namely 35AA and 35AB after the section in 35A. Accordingly, the RBI is now authorized to direct banking companies to resolve the specific stressed assets. So so that if non-performing assets are creating a loss for the particular banks and all, definitely they cannot survive. So has to control on those non-performing. The RBI is authorized for the direct banking companies to resolve that specific stressed assets, what action to be taken before the company moves towards the insolvency. Then Banking Regulation Act to 2020. Now here this was the basic role of this particular act was to find a solution of deteriorating conditions of cooperative banks, because cooperative banks definitely conditions were continuously, though government was funding, government amendment things was happening, Government Amendment Act 1949 was there, promulgated Banking Regulation Act Bill 2020 was there. Then also this particular cooperative bank was not able to perform well. So then the major objectives to bring the cooperative banks under the supervision of RBI was there, so that when RBI will be definitely regulating the cooperative banks, they will be able to survive with the new conditions, with the new reforms, with the new initiatives, and then they will be able to survive. Because one other thing was there, that the awareness was also not there among the public about the various initiatives or the given by the cooperative banks. Then reforms in the insurance sector, definitely to provide the universal social security system, especially to the unprivileged and the poor population of the country. Three major schemes were launched in 2015, namely Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana, Atal Pension Yojana, and Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana. Under the reforms of insurance sector, these three reforms were undertaken. So what are those three reforms? One is Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana, second is Pradhan Mantri Pension Yojana, then Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana. So what are these things? These schemes basically says when we say Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana, which gives you a coverage of 2 lakh on for accidental death or permanently total disability, and rupees 1 lakh for the partial disability. So this renewal of 1 year of accidental death, 9 disability covers is available on account of the holders of age group of 18 years to 70 years. The premium of rupees 12 per annum is deducted from the bank account through the auto debit facility, as well as in one installment. As on April 2021, cumulative gross enrollment by banks to Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana stood to 23.36 crores. Over 45,600 claims were disbursed under this scheme. Then second scheme was Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana. When we say Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana, this scheme offers a renewal of 1 year of your term life cover, which is up to rupees 2 lakhs to all the subscribing banks account holders. This subscribers can be in a age group of 18 to 50 years, and Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana is offered to the Life Insurance Corporation and all other life insurers. A premium of rupees 330 per annum is auto debited, and in one installment from the subscriber, the bank from the bank account. As of April 2021, cumulative gross enrollment to Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana was 10.32 crores, and over 2,39,000 claims has been disbursed under this scheme. So under the insurance scheme, these are the two, which is Suraksha Bima as well as Jeevan Jyoti Bima. Now coming on to third one, which is Atal Pension Scheme. Atal Pension Yojana scheme, which is to 2015. Now here government introduced Atal Pension Yojana scheme to provide a pension, especially to the people engaged in unorganized sectors like gardeners, maids, or etc. So here under Atal Pension Yojana replaces the previous Swawalamban Yojana. This scheme provides a defined pension and depending upon the contribution and its period. The subscribers are subject to a minimum of a pension of rupees 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 or 5,000 per month for an age of 60 years, contingent upon the contribution by the subscriber and the age at the time of joining the scheme. Then next comes your Ayushman Bharat. Now Ayushman Bharat also definitely it comes under the it's basically for the health and the wellness of the various people. So when we talk about the health and the wellness of the various people, this scheme was launched on the recommendation of National Health Policy 2017 to achieve the universal health coverage. So Ayushman Bharat scheme is launched to meet the sustainable development goals, and its commitment to leave no one behind. So definitely this scheme has two interrelated components, namely health and wellness centers as well as Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. So when we talk about health and wellness centers, so these centers are the centers which caters to the primary need of the healthcare needs of the citizens and in the respective areas, whereas a large number of schemes have been services related to reproductive, maternal, newborn, communicable diseases, ENT, ophthalmology, and others are provided in these sectors, so that people need not to run nearby towns or cities to get these kind of healthcare benefits, service and all. Definitely spending money and wastage of the energy and time. Whereas Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, it was launched in 2018, where in Jharkhand by Honorable Prime Minister, it is the largest public health insurance scheme in the world, aiming to provide Swasth Suraksha to nearly 10.74 crore people and vulnerable families, as per the socio-economic caste census in 2011, and the beneficiaries of. Then next comes your tax reforms. Now tax reforms, when we talk about, the government of India has appointed many committees to suggest measures, definitely measures in both direct and indirect taxation of the country. Now next committee after Narsimhan committee for tax reforms, that was for financial reforms. For tax reforms, we have Chelia committee 1991. Now this committee was basically to examine the structure of both direct and indirect taxes. So a tax reform committee under the chairmanship of Dr. Raja J. Chelia was constituted in 1991. The main task of the committee was to give suggestions on the way to improve the elasticity of direct and indirect tax, and making the taxation system broad-based and fair. It should not be like people hiding the tax or abiding by the taxes. Then next comes as Kelkar committee in 2001. Now Kelkar committee was basically made again related to the tax reforms only, because in tax reforms only we have Chelia committee and Kelkar committee. Kelkar committee was made in 2002, a task force under the chairmanship of Dr. Vijay Kelkar, and was constituted to recommend measures for the simplification of rationalization of direct and indirect taxes. The committee recommended formulating a simple and effective and a better tax system. For direct taxes, recommendations were related to raising the exemption limit of personal income tax above abolition of wealth tax, long-term capital gain tax, etc. Further widening the tax base, expansion in the coverage of service tax, etc. And were the recommendations for the indirect taxes. Then comes a Kelkar Committee on the Physical Consolidation. What they have given in August 2012, a committee was constituted under the chairmanship of Dr. Vijay Kelkar to outline the roadmap of physical consolidation. The main reason behind constituting the this committee was in 2013 that physical deficit was a sourcing high, and it was estimated to reach up to 66.1% of the GDP. And a higher physical deficit is a cause of worry for the economy, which could lead to the higher inflation, and the external balance could widen the investments, growth and development tend to weaken and overall confidence of the investors is shaken. So the recommendations of the committee was being given in order to was to direct tax reforms. Direct taxes will be those who will be directly impacting the incidence of the tax forms of the same person, like income tax, corporate tax, which will be a series have been given in the appendix 4 of the Income Tax Act. Then change in the direct and the indirect tax in the Union Budget 2021 and 22. Oh, definitely the Finance Minister has proposed a major changes in the appendix 5. Appendix 4 was just a direct tax which will be on the income and the corporate tax, right? Whereas various reforms under that has been made in order to simplify the implications of direct and indirect tax in Appendix 5 of the Income Tax Act 1961. So then now comes as physical sector reforms. Now what is physical sector reforms? Physical sector reforms, as simple as we already discussed, is a goods and services tax. Now in India, the Constitution of India gives a power to both the state and the central government to levy the taxes. Now central government levy the taxes like custom duty, central sales tax, state government levy the taxes like value added taxes and all. So this was a number of multiple taxes. So due to which this complexity of the taxes, where central government was imposing again and then state government was again imposing a tax on it. So due to which they have made one tax, which was a GST tax, structured under a indirect tax. So silent features of that particular GST was it is applicable on the supply of the goods or services, or as against manufacturers of the goods or on the sale of the goods. Then GST was definitely, it is a dual GST, namely central GST and a state GST. Now when we say central GST is levied by the central government. State GST is levied by the state government. So an integration of GST and IGST is levied on the interstate supply of goods and services. Interstate supply of goods and services definitely levied and collected by the central government is divided among the union and the state government recommendations on the GST. At present, there are 4 rates of GST: 5%, 12%, 18% and 28%, right? 5%, remember there are 4 rates of GST: 5%, 12%, 18% and 28. 5, 12, 18 and 28. Some of the items which are exempted from GST are alcohol on the human consumption, whereas similarly petrol, high speed diesel, supply of the petroleum crude oils, natural gases, aviations, turbine fuels, electricities are kept out of GST. So these are the things which are out of GST, and whereas other items are in the purview of GST, where GST is paid up to the percentage of 4, 12, 18 and 28. What is GST Council? Definitely GST Council is has a provision for the GST Council, which is an apex committee of GST matters. The composition of the members include the chairman of the council, definitely, and the union minister of the state in charge of the revenue or the finance, one member from the state, each state who is a minister in charge of the finance and taxations, right? The vice chairman as elected head of the state, the secretary of the revenue department, and all these are the ones who are the members of the GST Council. And GST Council recommends the Union Government of India and state on subsumming the various taxes, cess, subcharges and GST. Input tax credit. What is input tax credit, which is again a uniform of the tax reforms. Now, when we say it's one of the reforms under tax reform, our income tax credit refers to the tax which was already paid by the seller or the manufacturers at the time of purchase of the goods or services, which is available as a deduction for the tax payable, or the sellers can reduce the or deduct the taxes which they already paid. So definitely, then GST network, definitely we say GST network, which is a GSTN, is a non-profit or a non-government organization which and manages the entire information and technology system of goods and services tax portal, right? So definitely GSTN is a network, it's an online portal which entirely manages the entire goods and services tax as payers, and we can register, and definitely, and taxpayers file their tax returns through this particular portal. Governments can track every financial transaction through the GST. If you're not paying and you are a businessman, definitely you will be penalized for it. Then advantages of GST. So there are some of the benefits of GST, like for example, GST is a creation of unified common national market for India and boosting the Make in India campaign. It eliminates the multi-level taxes. It evolves the simple tax regime, increasing to ease for doing a business, reducing price of the goods in the long run, and thus benefits. Then according to the economic survey, definitely government received GST revenue generation of 1.15 lakh crores in till December 2020, and along with the ongoing pandemic COVID-19. And these are the keywords which always should be remembered as per the particular chapter of tax and financial reforms. Insolvency, it is a state in which a person or a company is unable to pay the debts, and this insolvency term was used because of the non-performing assets, because of which the banks were facing a huge number of losses and all, right? So for which this financial reforms were made. Then financial year, which is we know the financial reporting year and the budgeting which companies like from 1st April to 31st March. Then non-performing assets, it is a loan or an advances that are dealt in or areas due to which if that is not being paid or interest is due for 90 days, definitely they are considered as a non-performing assets. And what happens, they take the companies into liquidation, or they make the bank face losses. Then for which this financial reforms were definitely made, so that conditions are there. It can have a check on the non-performing assets. Then incidence of tax, it's a final burden on the tax, that incidence of one person who is ultimately the bearer of the real burden of the tax. 16. Then direct tax, which is directly levied on the either the business or on the person, which can be an income tax, that is on your salary. Corporation tax, that is on this thing. Then you have wealth tax. These are examples of direct, which is directly on your things which are being reflected as your income. Then comes of your indirect tax, such as GST, value added tax. These are the indirect tax which you are paying along with your every purchase of goods or services. So that's what is a goods and services tax, is one of the indirect taxes which you are paying it either by to the state government or to the central government, and indirectly by purchasing a particular, whether you are going to a restaurant also, you are paying a GST of some percentage, which is 5%. You have a 5%, you have a 12%, then you have a 18%, and you have a 28%, depending on the amount the GST will be implied on. So these are the various keywords which you should always remember. So that's all of your second and the third unit, sorry, 8th and the 9th unit, which is there in your block 3 of business environment. Anything you have still 5 to 10 minutes you want me to repeat, I can repeat on any of the one of the concepts if you want.
Is my voice audible, ma'am?
Yes.
What questions can we expect from this block 3, ma'am?
Questions I cannot tell, because question maker, it's IGNOU is a central level university, so questions will be framed at a central level, that we cannot. But you should always, as I have already shown you the topics, so like that all these subheads should be definitely taken care of. headings or subheadings. If you are missing it, we never know the question can be from there. So when you are preparing it, you should first make a pointers of the PPT. Okay, this particular chapter, this particular unit has these subheads. So each subheads you should read the content. So because they'll be asking from the subheads, because one subhead if you miss, definitely it can be directly asked, write a short note, because your questions will be 20 marks. So 20 marks question means content will be there enough. So that's what I'm telling you. None of the single concept or the subhead should be left, because there is only a question which is of 20 marks. There is no 10 marks or 5 markers, right? So yeah, so that's what all the subheads should be taken. And subheads, you see the subheads, you make a subheadings of the subheads, then you will be able to cover.
Okay. I want to query, ma'am. Will the questions be direct questions or will be anything?
I don't think so. Most of the time it's a direct question only, because definitely direct questions will be there, because you have got the materials and all. If indirect questions are also there, but it will be directly linked to the point. So they want the answers which is mentioned in the materials which you have been given. Yes, because if it is an indirect question, you cannot correlate it with the material. Right. So that is the question papers are made as per the point of view of all the students, not for generalizing it. Yeah.
Okay. From each block can we expect 2 questions, ma'am?
It's not like that. How many blocks you have?
4 blocks.
You have 4 blocks. Now, in 4 blocks, how many units are there?
I mostly around 10 to 15.
What is that?
10 to 15 units now.
So if total 4 blocks only you have. This block had 2 units only, correct?
Yes.
So definitely this, if 5 blocks are there, it is asked into is one first question has 2 questions, right? In which one you have to do like that. Total questions will be 10, right? So if 4 blocks are there, definitely this block to definitely this block has only 2 units, correct?
Yeah.
So two questions you can expect from each unit. One thing.
Okay.
Like that.
And one more thing, ma'am. How many pages of answer as taken for 20 marks?
Actually, it depends. Some people try to, because what happens, it's a theory paper. Theory paper means how you have to get the marks. You have to portray that in the first page. You try to portray that you know all the subheadings. So first page only it will be visible that you know the concept. Then whether the diagram or things are made in the book or not made, you should make it yourself to make it more and it takes your less, you consume less time, and you by that you help the evaluator to show that you know maximum points. So first page you should club out the entire points. Second point, if you are able to make it a diagrammatic, make it, and then from the third page start explaining it in small paras each point. So basically 20 marks minimum depends on, because if you're talking to me, I will be definitely writing 7 to 8 pages on the sides, not pages, sides.
Okay.
So that should be that, because this is not a rule as per IGNOU and all. So it's depend on the different people perceptions. Some people are able to write, some people are not able to write. That's what it is there.
One more thing, ma'am. Can you share June 24th paper, ma'am? We are not getting it online.
No, that if they are allowing me, I can share it in the group.
Previous classes we have asked sir, respective subjects, they have shared the previous question pattern.
Let me see if they are allowing. Yes, no, that because we don't get it. We don't get it here. It's if we are telling them, they will only share. They will only have it. We don't get it. Yeah. So we have
that particular subject, the sir said that he has